Hare Paramahamsa Sri Radhikacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Chirabai Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Devotee Founders of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Laharidas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vyāsadeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Mutara Ki Jai Sri Dwarka Dhama Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai Sri Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Chandradev Mandir Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamunvai Ki Jai Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Jai Sri Gonitai Ki Jai Jai Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Jai Sri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai Sri Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Jena Bhuttale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kamsana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Brahmami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Jayam Mudiraye Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Idam Bhagavatam nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Anyam Swasyayanam Mahat Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Sri Sarabhyaya Namaha
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 Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam So thank you all for coming today, Saturday. We are continuing our study of the 4th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada. And today we're doing text number 14. Yes. Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte
dvāpare samanuprāpte
tṛtīye yuga-paryaye
tṛtīye yuga-paryaye
jātaḥ parāśarād yogī
jātaḥ parāśarād yogī
vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ
vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ Sūta uvāca Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ hareḥ
Sūta uvāca kalayā hareḥ
vāsavyāṁ Sūta uvāca
dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ Sūta uvāca
dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ
Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ
Mataji.
Sūta uvāca dvāpare samanuprāpte tṛtīye yuga-paryaye jātaḥ parāśarād yogī vāsavyāṁ kalayā hareḥ
Sūta Gosvāmī uvāca said dvāpare in the second millennium samanuprāpte on the advent of tṛtīye third yuga millennium paryaye in the place of jātaḥ was begotten parāśarāt by parāśara yogī the great sage vāsavyāṁ in the womb of the daughter of Vasu kalayā in the plenary portion hareḥ of the personality. Sūta Gosvāmī said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyāsadeva was born to Parāśara in the womb of Satyavatī, the daughter of Vasu. Kindly repeat after me. Sūta Gosvāmī said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyāsadeva was born to Parāśara in the womb of Satyavatī, the daughter of Vasu. Purport. There is a chronological order of the 4 millenniums, namely Satya, Dvāpara, Treta, and Kali. But sometimes there is overlapping. During the regime of Vaivasvatamanu, there was an overlapping of the 28th round of the 4 millenniums. And the 3rd millennium appeared prior to the 2nd. In that particular millennium, Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna also descends. And because of this, there was some particular alteration. The mother of the great sage was Satyavatī, the daughter of the Vasu, fisherman. And the father was the great Parāśara Muni. That is the history of Vyāsadeva's birth. Every millennium is divided into 3 periods, and each period is called a sandhya. Vyāsadeva appeared in the 3rd sandhya. Time is calculated actually in our Vedic literatures, micro and macro. Micro means right down below a second, for example, there are maybe like 15 divisions, isn't it? And then beyond years and beyond centuries, there are millenniums. We come to know from the Bhagavatam how this is part of the whole, what we call a Vedic cosmology and a Vedic history, which is actually very, very different than what is a Western understanding. Western understanding or Christian understanding of history is that it is linear. There's a beginning, a creation, which is going back not too long ago, and then it just continues in a linear manner. Whereas in the Vedic concept, Vedic understanding, it is called cyclic. It is beginning and going around and then again starting, isn't it? There are many creations. There's not only one creation. There's a creation at the beginning of the day of Lord Brahma. Every day, Lord Brahma, who is the first created living being, his days are his one day, as we know, is 1,000 cycle of 4 millenniums. And one millennium are these 4 yugas that is being referred to here. And normally everything, just like our regular days, our regular days are also divided in sandhya. There are 3 sandhyas.
Yes.
And those who are initiated as brahmanas, they are supposed to chant their Gayatri during those sandhya. And the sandhya actually corresponds to a particular percentage of the day. So in a similar way, it's kind of very involved topic, actually, when one gets into it. That means that every millennium, also, as Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, at the beginning there's a sandhya, in the middle there's a sandhya, and at the end there's a sandhya. Sandhya means like in between, just like every day, before we actually see the sun. Before we see the sun, it starts to gradually get light, isn't it? So a certain period, that's all astrologically calculated, a certain period before the actual rising of the sun and going even beyond is the sandhya. It has a particular length of time. And similarly at noontime. And here's very interesting actually. I've not studied this in depth, I must admit. And therefore the subject matter is here Prabhupada just makes a very brief reference as to how sometimes, as it has happened in this last millennium, there's an overlapping of the millenniums, and what normally should happen, that dvāpare, it makes sense, right? Dvāpare means 2, tṛtīye means 3. So you start 1, 2, 3, and then Kali. But now we have some overlapping has somehow taken place, and it is at this particular time, because we know how our acharyas explain that Krishna actually, in his original transcendental form, he only appears once in a day of Lord Brahma, and he appears at this time. What's also interesting is that when Krishna appears, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also appears. Yeah. So in other words, the appearance of Krishna, in order for the appearance of Krishna to happen or to take place, some kind of special arrangement is made. And this also explains in the purport how this great personality, Srila Vyāsadeva is sometimes an individual jiva, or sometimes he's the Lord incarnated. Just like we hear how normally Lord Brahma, he is an ordinary jiva. And it means that anyone else may also be taking his post. It's basically like a post. And we can just imagine, I mean, the Vedic knowledge is spoken again and again, is revealed again and again to humanity at certain intervals. Very involved kind of arrangement, so to speak, whereby there are things, again, that are not so easy to understand unless one, very goes into it very deeply. So here, the advent of Krishna is referred to, the advent of Srila Vyāsadeva, and the mention also of Vaivasvata Manu. Why this overlapping takes place, I don't know. Prabhupada doesn't explain here. Maybe it's mentioned in some other places. It means that there are so many unknown factors that are there within the whole cosmos, and these things somehow take place. Otherwise, we could say the days of Lord Brahma are very, because that's a very, we could say, a feature. It's a feature of the Vedic knowledge, a feature of the creation, that everything is very systematically ordained, systematically arranged. But sometimes some irregularities also come about. one would have to study a bit more as to why or how it is that these irregularities come about. But for us it's important to know that it is at this particular junction when there is this overlapping of the 28th round of the 4 millenniums. That's another whole explanation as well, in the same way that, Lord Brahma's day has 1,000 of these 4 millenniums. And then there are manus. There's so many manus in the day of Lord Brahma, and they have so many, they also live for a very long period of time. So this gives us a little bit of an idea of how the arrangement is there, and I guess maybe one thing that will be there when we read the Vedic literatures, there will be at times areas that are not immediately, fully understood. There are so many things within this material manifestation that even is not fully understood or known by personalities who are in Svargaloka, or even by Lord Brahma himself, although he's the most intelligent personality. It means that the whole cosmic manifestation, how it functions, how it is regulated, is a very involved affair, and there are all kinds of laws that are in place for facilitating, we could say, this whole cosmic manifestation to be taking place. I don't have that much more comments to make on this. Maybe some of you might have some insight or some questions on this.
One small question, Maharaj.
Yeah.
This when yugas overlapping take place, the duration of yuga will remain same, or duration changes according to its position?
No, just like in a day, the sandhya takes place. The day remains the same. It's not that because there's a sandhya that we're missing. Let's say the sandhya is 2 hours, an hour and a half. What's the actual duration of the sandhya? It's a fixed time. There's a...
The Treta Yuga, if now Treta Yuga came as a second yuga, if it comes as third yuga, then its time duration will be 2 times of third yuga, something like that. I mean, in other cycles, Treta Yuga time...
well, Treta Yuga generally is much longer. I mean,
in this cycle.
When it says here that, very interesting actually, here it mentions how the third millennium, which is, normally the third millennium is dvāpare yuga, isn't it? Now here's and I have a question. If you don't have any questions, I have a question. The third millennium appeared prior to the second. That means Dvapara appeared before Treta. Isn't it? And we know that Krishna appeared at the end of Dvapara. That means that if the third millennium appeared before
after the second millennium, means if Treta becomes the third millennium.
Yeah, so that means that actually after Dvapara should be Treta. Yes?
Yes.
But it's not.
Yes.
In this cycle.
In this
In this cycle, yeah. So that means, I don't want to speculate here, but what happened to Treta Yuga? If Dvapara Yuga appeared, if there was an overlap and appeared before Treta, and then we find ourselves, isn't it? We know that Krishna appeared just 5,000 years ago at the end of Dvapara, and after Dvapara we're falling into Kali Yuga. What happened to Treta Yuga? I don't know.
It's interchange actually. It's interchange. Interchange means actually every time Dvapara Yuga comes first. That means Satyuga, Dvapara Yuga, Treta Yuga,
Yes.
and Kali Yuga.
Yes.
This is a sequence.
Yes.
But in the Vaivastha Manus, that's a 28th millennium cycle. That's a fourth cycle.
Cycle of the four.
So then at that time, what will happen? This Dvapara Yuga comes later, and Treta Yuga comes first. That means Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. This sequence is followed.
Okay, Treta became before Dvapara. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, there is a 28th cycle actually. Every Manu is having, there are 14 Manus. That means for one Brahma's day, that means 1000 Mahayugas. Mahayuga means 4 Yugas. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. These 4 is known as the one Mahayuga. One Mahayuga.
Yeah.
And this one Mahayuga, how many? There are 1000 Mahayugas are there for 1 day of Brahma.
1 day Brahma.
And those 1000 Mahayugas are divided into the 14 Manus.
Yes.
Each Manu will get the 72, approximately. 72 Mahayugas.
Yes.
In that 72 Mahayugas, that's a 28th
That's
Mahayuga.
Some change.
There is a change.
Right.
Of Vaivastha Manu only, not others.
Yes, correct.
There is a change in, interchange in the Dvapara and Treta Yuga.
Yes.
So that means Treta Yuga comes first, Dvapara Yuga comes later
So
actually.
the duration of Treta Yuga will also change.
Will change.
Because normally Treta Yuga is supposed to be 2 times to Kali Yuga.
Yes.
So
The
this
duration also
cycle
will change.
is 3 times to Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
Similarly, Dvapara Yuga.
Duration also will change, and in that time only the Sri Krishna Bhagavan comes as it is. That means with his Nila Megha Syama Varna. And in the same millennium Kali Yuga, in same Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. That means Brahma's 1 day, 1 time only he appears.
Yes.
Out of 1000 Kali Yugas,
Yes.
in 1 Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and Sri Krishna Bhagavan comes.
Yes.
I have heard, is it something like that Krishna comes whenever it is Dvapara Yuga only?
That means that comes only once, no? Once in
so
a
that's the
1000.
reason, that's the reason the overlapping has occurred, it seems.
Overlapping actually it's because of the time calculation, sometimes Tirida also overlaps.
But Krishna doesn't come in every Dvapara Yuga.
Yeah, but
He comes in every 1000 Dvapara Yuga.
it is said whenever it is Dvapara, it's time, it should be Dvapara only.
Krishna does not appear in every Dvapara Yuga.
Yes, so much. But whenever Krishna comes, it should be Dvapara Yuga, it is said
Oh.
like that.
No, it should be the paryaya. Paryaya means interchange of the Treta and Dvapara. That means first Treta comes and next Dvapara comes. That is the when it happens in that time period, in that Dvapara only Sri Krishna Bhagavan comes with original form.
Yes. So that means that people in Dvapara Yuga who normally live for 1,000 years, for 10,000 years, normally in Dvapara Yuga people live for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
But in this Dvapara Yuga they were living for 1,000 years.
Yes.
Any additional comment or question?
Okay. I have questions which may not be related to today's particular discussions. Actually, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he is the one created 4 varnas and 4 ashramas to keep the society in order. So when Krishna says this, whose responsibility is this to work on this, to keep the society in order, or to, it's definitely, it should be the follower of Krishna's, like those who are following Krishna, those who are devotees of Krishna, it's their responsibility to keep it. I mean, to work on this or to promote it.
If your question is, who is meant to uphold the principles of dharma, specifically in the matter of Krishna's instructions regarding varna and ashrama. Yeah. Naturally, it is the devotees of the Lord. It is especially the responsibility of those who are twice born, and especially amongst them, actually the brahmanas and the kshatriyas, because both have their respective roles to play in implementing the principles of dharma.
But if the devotees of Krishna, if they are not like taking much interest in promoting or say working on this building of an ashrama, then how can we expect a proper society or a peaceful society if we are not working? If we think devotional service is different than varnashrama,
well, there's a direct link or connection, and because the subject matter of dharma is a very deep subject matter, both what we refer to as the science of devotional service, or the science of Bhagavat Dharma, is in itself a science, which is not anything that is actually a science means it's not always so easy to understand or to put into practice. In a similar way, actually, Varnashrama Dharma is a science. It is also a very involved science, a very deep science, and because we are living now in Kali-yuga, where there are definitely special challenges, because if we study the history in the last few thousand years, it's been very difficult. I mean, we've not really seen dharma properly followed or established. So we could say that normally in Kali Yuga there's practically no hope for people to know about or to practice dharma at whatever level. And now with the advent of Lord Chaitanya, we understand from our acharyas that although it is Kali Yuga, this is a special period, isn't it, from the time of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, whereby dharma, even though it is Kali Yuga, will actually make its appearance. And we are told, it is there in the Shastras, that actually for this 10,000 period there will be, a golden era, golden period, that will be similar to Satya Yuga. Now, exactly how this will come about, and because we know, for example, now sometimes devotees bring this argument as well, which is an interesting argument, that actually in Satya, if we're meant to have Satya Yuga appear within Kali Yuga, if Satya Yuga, the golden age, is going to make its appearance, we know from our acharyas and from Shastra that in Satya Yuga there's no varnashram. Now this is so we can start scratching our head then. Well, the way to understand this is that Satya Yuga will not just immediately manifest. It's like, the sun comes at its highest peak at noontime during the day. And before that, it's a gradual, rising of the sun. Whether this is going to be similar, in terms of the manifestation of dharma, the appearance of dharma in this 10,000 period, of which we have passed 500, because it began with the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we don't know, at least I don't know. We do know from our acharyas, and also from the Shastra, that the system of Varna and Asrama is meant to help the conditioned souls rise to the mode of goodness, and it is meant to help one actually become fixed or situated in devotional service. So it is a tool, so to speak, to help individuals, because it puts order within society. And we know how present-day society is very disordered, isn't it? And so many statements made by Srila Prabhupada explaining how, unless that basic, system, for example, everyone is interested in economy, and economy is an integral part of any nation. Every nation has to have some kind of economic development. But most people are not understanding, not knowing what is the ideal and recommended economic development given by Krishna. That economic development, that science of economy, is explained in our Shastra as being agriculture and cow protection, isn't it? Krishi Goraksha Vanijam. And therefore, present day, we could say, society, modern day society, is going away more and more from that. And we know that it's just a matter of time. If one does not have a sound and sustainable economy, things will collapse, isn't it? And we have this kind of situation at present. So there are many different reasons why we should be as spoken, as mentioned, as requested actually by Srila Prabhupada also, that we introduce this system of Varna and Asrama. And it's a very involved topic, of course, and in many ways because of the very, because we've gone astray so much away actually from Dharma. As a matter of fact, one of our foremost acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he makes the following point, which I think is definitely very important, especially for those who have some understanding and who have some desire also to see that Varnashram be established. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that we cannot expect to establish it immediately. He makes a statement, if we try to establish it immediately, it will fail. And in the present context, social context that we have all over the world, I think that's fair enough to understand. So therefore, it means that it needs to gradually be introduced. Of course, gradual means, there should be some ongoing activity, some ongoing effort towards implementing, towards introducing. And one of the very important ways, again, identified by Srila Prabhupada, was through education and training. Most of us, most of the population in the world, as we know, most of our devotees as well, are totally, away from the more natural way of living. living in urban areas. So therefore there needs to be a gradual introduction, a gradual training, and we just have to come back again to that one of the very important instructions given by Srila Prabhupada, who had told 40 plus years back, we need to immediately establish varnashram colleges. And the longer we wait on this matter, then we are not actually helping matters by not putting into practice, or by not following, rather, Srila Prabhupada's instructions on this matter. So it's just like Krishna has a very strong desire for all living entities to go back home, back to Godhead, and to engage in his devotional service, right? But Krishna doesn't force. You can't actually force that. So in a similar manner, this whole aspect, it's not something that can be forced. In different ways, it's very much up to the individual devotees to acquire more understanding, and in different ways, whenever the opportunity is there, to not only to speak about it, to discuss about it, but actually to show by example, because that's always, that was Prabhupada's main point as well, that we will never convince general society, and we also may not be able to convince our own devotees unless we show by example, isn't it? So having an ideal philosophy without implementing that philosophy, without in practical ways demonstrating, is not going to be convincing to many people. So that's part of the challenge that we have. And it is a major challenge, definitely, because the whole of society is going in the opposite direction. But we should remain convinced, this being the order not only of Srila Prabhupada but of our previous acharyas as well, then those who have some understanding should continue to cultivate this knowledge and endeavor in different ways. I'll just mention something which I think I've shared before. Some years back we used to have, and I think we should again revive, what is called ISKCON Leads. ISKCON Leads, leadership program for all of the temples here in India. And there were different subject matters. The ISKCON Leads program would go on for maybe 1 week, And devotees from different temples would come at one place, and there were different speakers. So normally we had like 3 days, maybe it was for 2 weeks altogether, because I remember we had like 3 or 4 sessions on the whole varnashrama dharma. And specifically I remember a number of students, these are devotees, full-time devotees from different temples. Mostly we had brahmacharis actually coming to these programs. They would come on the second or third day and mention that actually, in the beginning I really could not understand and didn't really have so much faith in this whole idea of varnashram, because it's not something we speak about very much in our temples, that they admitted. And many of these devotees, by the end of our workshop and seminars, they appreciated and they could understand. So unless we give some time to something, it will remain obscure or unknown. So, I think we need to bring this to a close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki